content. So what I wanted to talk about was, are you sure your kitchen is functional? Do you know if your kitchen is functional? Or answering the question, do I have a functional kitchen? And some of you might already know the answer. It's a hard no. I do not have a functional kitchen. Or some of you be like, yeah, my kitchen is completely functional. And others are like, well, I'm not really sure. I want a kitchen renovation, but what does it look like to have a functional kitchen in the first place? Maybe the kitchen you have now is already perfectly functional. So I'm going to bring up some slides. I'm going to chat about this for a few minutes, and we will. And listen, sorry that that was a little bit blurry. I don't know why that happens on my streaming platform. It was completely fine, but on YouTube, I don't know, stuff like that happens. So thanks for being patient with me regardless. Let's check at this. Do you have a functional kitchen? Can you answer that question confidently? My thing's going off here. My friend Rob, let me just interrupt you for a minute. My friend Rob Reed, he's his YouTube channel just hit, I think, 1,000. He's sending me, Rob, I'm doing this for you, man. He just hit 1,000 subscribers. He's really happy, and he's texting me like mad because he's been really trying to hit 1,000. So Rob, if you're watching my live stream, you did it, man. You hit 1,000 subscribers. It's such a huge accomplishment. There's nothing to do with kitchens, but man, I'm really proud of you. You're doing it. So, you got to just start and keep going. So we'll celebrate later. I'll call you in a little bit, man. All right, back to this. Do you have a functional kitchen? And how do you tell if you do or you do not? So your kitchen might be old, but that does not mean that it's not functional. Just because it's older doesn't mean that it's not usable. It's not efficient. It's not accessible. It doesn't have the things that you need it to do to function for you as the homeowner, as the user. And so sometimes just because you're looking at an older space does not mean that your kitchen is necessarily not functional. It might be falling apart due to a lot of use. Some of you use your kitchens quite a bit, or because it's poor quality. And I had an interesting conversation this week with a client, and they said that their kitchen had one of those hanging peninsulas on the ceiling. And one day, while their husband was standing there doing dishes or whatever in the kitchen, this thing fell right out of the ceiling onto the floor. And, much to their surprise and like, wow, like part of my kitchen just about killed me. So you might just have a kitchen that is falling apart, but not necessarily not functional. So let's move on. So, however, knowing if you have the foundation of function is what's really important. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, is just understanding what are the foundations of having a functional kitchen. Very basic stuff that you already know. If you've listened to me for any length of time, you'll be able to figure this out. But the foundations of either designing a functional kitchen or determining whether your kitchen is as bad as you think it is. Maybe it's not that bad, and there's some things that you can rethink or redo to revitalize your current kitchen. So let's move on and look at that. So what do you look for? What are the things that are key when you're trying to decide whether or not you have a functional kitchen? Do you have any guesses? What would be the first thing that you'd look for on deciding whether or not your kitchen is functional? I'll let you guess for a second. I won't leave you too long because I only have a little bit of time here while I. Did you get it? Did you get it yet? All right, well, here it is. It is, do you have ample storage? Do you have enough storage in your kitchen where you don't have to be storing things out in the garage, up in the attic, in a separate hall closet? Does your kitchen contain everything that it needs to contain? That's the first basic question on whether or not you have the foundation of function, is whether or not your kitchen can contain the things that you need. Not saying that they have to be optimally placed and in the right spots in terms of how you use them, and efficient and accessible and all the good stuff, but does your kitchen just hold the things that you need it to hold? And if it doesn't, well, we'll talk about why or why not. And if it does, well, that's a really good sign that you have the good foundation of having a functional kitchen. Whether or not you're going to renovate it or not, that is a good starting point, is having enough space in your kitchen to hold the things that you need it to hold. Now, there are some hacks, very simple hacks that you can do. If you have a space right now that is already, you're using it daily, you're kind of frustrated with it, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get more function out of this without spending a ton of money on a renovation? You're not going to be building anytime soon. and a new kitchen is just not in the cards right away. The first thing is this simple storage hack. Number one is to declutter. Very basic, talk about it a lot. A lot of people don't want to do it because it just doesn't sound that, you know, fun. It doesn't sound like the thing that you just want to do, the thing that I just can't wait to declutter my kitchen. Most people are, I can't wait to renovate my kitchen. But when it comes to decluttering, it's a different story. But I guarantee you that if you just get rid of half of the stuff that you never use anyway, and just and thin out the space, you'll realize that maybe I do have enough storage space in this kitchen. Now that doesn't mean that you don't go renovate your kitchen for whatever reason. It just means that, okay, there is potential in this space to hold more things in it than it's holding, or hold them better, store them better than what they're or how they're being stored now. So number one thing is to realize that I can declutter, and that's a painful process for some, and some of you love to do it maybe, but for a lot of us, we just don't like, doing that. But I can guarantee you will find more storage space, obviously, because you're just getting rid of stuff you don't need. And you'll open up that space, and it'll be much better. Now, if you just still have too much stuff, Mickey, then I don't know what to tell you. You got to declutter again and go through it. But that is a good sign too. If you declutter, you still don't have enough space for stuff. That's a good sign too. It just means that, okay, this kitchen isn't functional. I don't have enough storage, so I have to do things now to figure out how to get more. And if decluttering doesn't do it for you, then that's just information to help you down the road to say, okay, this kitchen needs to function better, especially in the area of storage. So it's good to know either way. I do have enough room, or I don't have enough room. Second storage hack is to organize. Now, this might come hand in hand with decluttering, but you can just, you can parse out everything, kind of get rid of half of the stuff in your kitchen, but also to really be intentional about how you organize your space, where things are located, how they're organized for ease of use, so that things don't get buried in the back and then repurchased and put in the front, and then buried in the back and repurchased. And all of a sudden you have too much stuff again because you haven't really organized your space in a great way. So, and I'm not an organizational expert. My channel isn't about organization. So I encourage you to go, and if you're not good at it either, then go find some inspiration online on YouTube. I'm sure there's a lot of channels out there that talk about organizing your kitchen specifically, and those are really great tools for you to go to try to help yourself get a little more organized, so that you declutter, you organize, and you realize, okay, this space isn't as bad as, I wish you maybe want it to be bad so that you can just go ahead with that renovation anyway, but maybe it's not as bad as you think, regardless of if you do a kitchen reno. And the next thing is to move items, is to store items in different places that might be more optimal for use. I know that maybe you're used to using things in a particular place, but that might not be the best use of that particular thing. And by moving some things around in where they're located and stored, you may be able to find that your kitchen can work more efficiently, more optimally, by moving items. For instance, this is something we've talked about before, is maybe you store your bowls and plates in a wall cabinet and then you move them to a drawer base. Trying something like that, as simple as it sounds, you realize that maybe it's just more efficient in the drawer, and I can use this cabinet for something else. And just by shifting things around, just because something is in a good location doesn't mean there's not a better location. And it's always important to just keep an eye out and keep your mind in the idea that, I wonder if this can be located somewhere else that could be more beneficial for me using it. There's a saying in chess, if you're into chess, which maybe you are or not, is that if you see a really good move, look for an even better move. So don't just jump on the first move. Don't just store the thing there because it maybe looks really good, but really think through, is there even a better spot to store this? And think through your kitchen storage. So the number one thing is to realize, do I have ample storage in this space? When I declutter, when I organize, when I move things around, it's either yes or no, or maybe it's in between. But if it's no, then, like, Mickey said, I declutter, I still don't have enough space. Well, at least you know that going forward, I need to really make sure that I have space for these things that I'm not getting rid of. I'm organized, I've decluttered, I store things completely optimally, but I still need more storage space. And then in your renovation, that's the key point to talk to your designer about, to say, okay, here's where I'm at, and this is really what I need. I might not necessarily need, all these bells and whistles that you're throwing at me. I need to make sure I have enough storage, and having that communication is really important when you're talking to a designer or just doing it yourself to know what to shoot for, what to aim for in your renovation. The next thing is this one. Do you have ample counter space? So number one thing is storage. That's how you tell if you have function and or if your kitchen's functional. And next, if you have counter space. These are the two main things that people ask me about when we're doing consultations or we're doing kitchen designs. Is I don't have enough storage, or I just don't have enough counter space. And then what do we do about that? So you have to answer this question: do you have enough counter space? And you can think about your kitchen now, and you can think, well, I run out, I don't have enough, I don't seem to have enough. Or like you may just have sprawling amounts of counter space. You might have a 150-foot island. Well, it's a lot, maybe 150 inches. You just have a big sprawling island. You have lots of landing area. You have tons of counter space, or you just have a little bit and it's shared between things. And you're trying to determine whether your kitchen's functional. It doesn't matter how much you have. It's, do you have enough for you to use it the way that's optimal for you? That's really the key point to make sure that you're answering. So things to think about when we're talking about having enough ample counter space is having shared landing areas. Do you have landing areas that are shared between a range and a sink, or an island that is sharing the landing area for a bunch of different things for, you're taking something out of the oven, you're taking something out of the fridge, out of the microwave, out of the sink, out of the dishwasher. All these shared landing areas are important points in your kitchen, because when there's overlap, then there can be a little bit of a bottleneck. But also, shared landing areas are important because you sometimes just cannot get away from them. So it's okay to have shared landing areas between, say, a sink and a range, or a fridge and a sink, or whatever the case may be. Having a countertop that serves double purposes is fine, but it's important to understand, is it my main? Does it get cluttered very easily? Is it efficient for how I want to use it? When I'm using with the sink and someone comes from the oven, is something in the way? Do I got to move something out of the way? So this is really important. Thinking about your shared landing areas, especially when you're going into a kitchen design and seeing the points on that design that are going to be shared. Maybe your island will be just its own countertop, nothing on it. Maybe there's some seating, so it's going to be a little bit social, but mostly it's free and clear for maybe prep. But then the counter space that's in your kitchen rendering, your floor plan between your fridge and your sink, is going to be this shared space. And realizing that in the design phase, to say, all right, that's a shared landing space. And so that countertop is really kind of spoken for in terms of what it's going to be used for. So I don't want to be storing a whole bunch of things there. As we'll see in a second here, storing things on countertops is something that happens because this is a shared landing area. The next one is dedicated prep space. If possible, you want to have a prep space that's not in a shared landing area, because it just gets too cluttered, because you're trying to do too many things in that one spot at once. Now, some of you are saying, well, I just don't have any countertop, and I understand that. So these are the things to think about when you're doing a renovation is, okay, I have landing areas, some are shared, some are not, and that's okay. And then I have just dedicated prep space. Now, if you follow NKBA guidelines, they talk about a particular width of counter space, about 36 inches, if I take it from memory, of just dedicated work surface. So I call it prep surface, so that you can use that and it's being used for nothing else. Nothing is stored there. Nothing is going to be put there out of the oven. It's just free and clear for landing area. And that is really important to understand in your own kitchen, whether or not you have that or not. And if you do, great. Or it doesn't have to be 36. It can be any size really that it is. But do you have something that is dedicated to prepping food and doing those particular tasks that you want to do in the kitchen without any kind of overlap from anywhere else? The third thing is countertop storage. Now, totally different from regular storage inside a cabinet or a pantry wall cabinet, base cabinet. We store things on our countertops. We looked last week. Trina's Kitchen had a section, if you watched last week's live stream, where we're roasting the kitchens. Trina's Kitchen has a section of countertop that is really used for storing things, because there's a chimney going through it and it's not much good for anything else except for storing items. Now, your kitchen doesn't have to have or your countertop does not have to have a chimney going through it, in order for it to be something where you could store things, just think about the small appliances that are always stored on your countertop. Think about your coffee maker that you just never put away. We have our Vitamix and our kettle and our coffee maker just always out on the counter. They're stored there in those spaces. And so when you're looking at your kitchen, being okay with number one, that they're there and not being too upset that, oh, your countertops aren't just completely free and clear all the time, because that's just not how you use the space. But knowing that these are the areas and these are the items that are always on my countertop, and making allowances for that in your design in your kitchen. So when you're doing a renovation, understanding that these are the things that are always going to be on my countertop, and I have to be aware of that because I'm a creature of habit and I don't want to be dragging my Vitamix out of the cabinet all the time. I just want it where I want it, and I don't mind that it looks like a Vitamix. It looks like just a blender, and that's okay with me. And if you want to put it in appliance garage, by all means. And if you want to go store it in a closet somewhere, that's fine too. It's knowing what works for you, but being okay with the fact that some of your countertop is for storage. Do you have that? Do you not have that? And these are really important questions to answer. So between the storage and between your counter space, these are really the foundations of function and figuring out whether or not your kitchen has enough capacity to hold and do the things that you want it to do. And if your answer is I don't have enough of each of those, then that's one route that you go with when you're doing a design, figuring out how to optimize that. Or if you have tons of both of those things, you still have to find a balance in your kitchen so that you can do the things that you want it to do, and create a really great kitchen design. Now, the third thing that's important to think about is, can you perform tasks easily? Can you do the things in your kitchen with ease, or is it a real chore to do the things in your kitchen that you're doing? Can you know, get through making a turkey dinner for some family gathering without just being all over the place and wearing yourself out? Or does the kitchen work for you? Is it optimized to be working for you? Here's some things to think about when you're thinking about this. Appliance placement. So appliance placement, where those things are placed, will either allow you to perform tasks easier or harder. If, let's take a crazy example, which isn't that crazy actually, because this does happen. If your refrigerator is in another room somewhere, well, actually, Trina's from last week, hers was in another room, but not that far away. But let's say your refrigerator is in another room completely somewhere else, then it makes sense that you're not going to be able to perform tasks that easily if you're running to the refrigerator, getting ingredients, coming back to your kitchen, so, and obviously that's a, really, outlandish example, but that is the idea is, are my appliances placed in such a way that they make sense and I can use them easy? Maybe they are in your kitchen. And that's important to remember when you're doing a kitchen renovation. Sometimes your designer will ask you, can we move things around? Can we move the fridge? Can we move the stove? Can we move the wall oven, the microwave, the sink? And yes, you can, but just know that they really work for me in these locations, and I'm not sure they need to be moved in order to be more functional. Now, your designer, who might have years of experience, might say, yes, but I've seen this, work for other people really well, and I'll show you that. And that's great to see. But just because you can move them around doesn't mean that it's absolutely necessary, unless they totally don't work for you. And yes, I got to move things around. You have a fridge and a range side by side, but you do have room to put them in other places. Okay, you should really not an optimal solution for appliances, but the key takeaway is, are they placed in such a way that allows you to perform things easily in your kitchen? Next is your work zones. Do you have work zones in your kitchen that are dedicated spaces where you're doing specific tasks? In the interview I did with Anne-Marie, she talked about the scrape and rinse and load for the dishwasher, sink, and garbage. So this is a work zone. And if you have your garbage, somewhere else that's not by your sink and you're kind of traveling all around, these are just clues that, okay, I need to make this kitchen more efficient. And that means that, okay, my kitchen can be more functional. But maybe your old kitchen now that you're working in, or maybe that you've added some new doors or put a new countertop on, is laid out in such a way that these work zones exist and that they work for you. So whether or not you have them, it's a fact of, if I have them, great. If I don't, and I am doing a renovation, is to think about those work zones so that we can include them in a kitchen renovation so that you can have tasks performed more easily. This is a big one is can you see? Can you see what's going on in your kitchen? Lighting. The lighting in your kitchen is absolutely hands down very, very important for kitchen function. And I have a video specifically on lighting. I'll probably do more of those in the future, talking about how to light your kitchen so that it is very functional and optimized for that. So that you can use it and see what you're doing, because that's important. Not having shadows, having the right types of light, the right color of light, the right warmth, cool, neutral type of lights. And if your kitchen now has a lot of shadows, maybe there's poor lighting or some old fluorescence or really glary lights, then it's important to think about that going into your next renovation and making sure you have that conversation with your designer or whoever you're working with, your contractor, your builder, to get proper lighting in your kitchen, because that will help you to perform tasks easier so that you do have a functional space. And lastly, items located where you need them. This goes back to the storage of moving things around. And just because you can move them doesn't mean it's always the right decision. Sometimes you move them and you realize, okay, this isn't as functional as it could be because it's not really where I absolutely need it. So going back to this and saying, are the things that I am using located where I need them to be? Are my trays for my oven in a location that's convenient to access, or are they in some weird drawer over here that I have to go get all the time? Now, when you're designing your kitchen, this is an important task to go through of going through all the different things that you own and realizing that and declutter, of course, and get rid of some of the stuff you're not going to use ever again in your new kitchen. But then the things that you are going to store, realizing where they're going to go, how they're going to be placed in such a way that they're easy to use. And this will allow you to have all the things in your kitchen working with each other to help you, just enjoy the space more. Does your kitchen get the job done, or are you just making it work? And that's really important to know, because if it gets the job done, that's okay. You still can have a renovation. Doesn't mean you don't need one. It just means that there's clues in your current kitchen that can transfer over to your new kitchen, because there are elements of function, foundations of function that you already have that you want to keep. But if you're just making it work, you're just trying to scrape by, you're barely hanging on to this thing, it's on its last leg, then that's important to understand as well, so that you can design a kitchen that does do the things that you need it to do when you want to do them, and how you want to do them, so you can really enjoy your space. So those are the foundations of function, storage, counter space, and the ability to work in that kitchen easily. And those are the things to look for. Of course, my channel is filled with lots of videos and content that talks about all of those types of things in different ways, shapes, and forms. And next week, when we do the live kitchen expo, when I'm talking about function is king, I'm going to really hone in on a few factors when it comes to, dealing with a functional kitchen as well. So next week's video, of course, on Saturday, this week's video, I am talking about functionality, accessibility, and efficiency, and the mix of those things and how they come together to form a healthy kitchen. So you'll see that title come up, how to design a healthy kitchen, and can your kitchen help you live a healthier lifestyle? I'll answer that question on Saturday's video. It should be fun. Listen, thanks so much for watching. I'm going to jump into the chat a little bit. So if you're watching this replay, the rest of this is really going to be me babbling on about nonsense as I look at the chat. If you have a question and you want me to answer it, or something you want to chat about, put a few question marks before it in the chat now as you go through. And I'd love to chat with you for a little bit while we hang on. And otherwise, if you're watching this in the replay, I'm going to cut this part off in a bit. So thank you so much for being here. And the live crew, thank you guys so much for hanging on for a few minutes as we chat in the live chat stream here. And Jackie's not around to cause trouble, so I can just say anything I want, which is really, really great. So um, thanks so much, guys, for hanging on and watching that video. I know it was blurry, and I don't know why it was, but it's all good. The Design Expo is going to be fun. There's a lot of people. I've never heard any of them before, but it should be interesting. and I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, I don't know if any of them are on YouTube or what their stories are, but should be really interesting. And it's free, so why not? And if you sign up and you can't make it, they'll send you a copy so you can watch. So very cool. Ed saying hit the thumbs up. Thank you, Edward. Yeah, hit the thumbs up if you haven't already. I do appreciate it if you're watching. And I'm just gonna kind of scrolling through here as I look through some of the chat. Um, See if there's anything important that I need to talk about with you guys. And you guys just talk about yourself. Oh, any opinion? Any opinions on counter depth versus full size? Well, I don't know. Do you guys have an opinion on that? I hear that counter depth fridges are just they're too shallow. You know, I guess they get the job done. Maybe if you have clearance issues, that can be great. Um, but there's ways to make. We chat about this before. There's ways to make your regular full size, full depth fridge look more built in. If you have, maybe the right layout or you have enough space for it. But I think in a lot of cases you can make it look in just by building out the panels, building out the cabinets around it. So you just have the reveal of the door, and then you have a full fridge, great capacity. But if you don't need that and you can get away with a shallower fridge, then maybe it's the way to go. And it can look a little more sleek, maybe a little more modern. The reason that full depth fridges look bad is because they're not paneled properly. And so you see this part of the fridge that sticks out that looks not that great. Looks ugly, I guess is the word for it, at least to me. And we seen that a few weeks ago on the $1 million home with the kitchen that didn't have the panel installed deeper. And you have this really, well, it wasn't a really nice kitchen, but they're trying to make a really nice kitchen, but you have this side of this fridge sticking out. So if people would just panel them better, that would really help. And if you have the room for a full depth fridge, you have the room to panel it. It doesn't take any more room. It just allows you to make it look like it fits in the space better. So I'm not for or against either. I just think that it's important to know how to panel them correctly so that you can get the best look and still get the best fridge that you need. Let's see. Nick, Mark, are you a what? You are a genius, but who are your heroes? I'm not a genius, that's for sure. But thank you. I'll take the compliment. Who are my heroes when it comes to like kitchen design? Um, Gosh, I don't really have any kitchen design heroes, but the guys that taught me, they taught me pretty much everything I know. The two main guys who taught me kitchen design when I was coming up through the ranks, Willie and Glenn, they were really influential in just teaching me how to design kitchens and some of the thought that goes behind it. Blocking off corners, that came from one of those guys who started doing that. And so I seen that was really a great way to do it and adopted that into my own design philosophy. So that's not something that I made up or anything, of course, but I learned it from him. Yeah. So I mean, and yeah, he could add fractions together like no one's business. So I thought that was pretty special. Add 5/16 3/8, just like that. I'd have to be like, okay, I got to convert these, same denominator, change the numerator, add. He could just do it right off the top of his head. But otherwise, yeah, those are I guess my heroes. I don't have any other kitchen design heroes. All right. Let's see. If I miss a question or something, it's because I didn't see it. So if you do put question marks in front of it, I will definitely see it, like this one from Vonda. Hey, Vonda, what is the cost to panel appliances? Depends a little bit on where you're buying the doors from. Usually, the appliance is a little bit more expensive, usually. And then the door, you have to buy a door for that, so whatever the cost of a door is, but it's not astronomical unless you're talking a refrigerator, then it can be, it can become quite pricey, I'm guessing, because doors doors are expensive, but I wouldn't be able to give you just a number. Um, but, you're buying an extra door and you gotta buy the appliance that has the capability to do that, to be paneled. So, I think it's a little bit more money, but not crazy amount. Helen, what's up? Last week's live was epic. Thanks, Helen. Huge thanks to Vaughn, Nick, Maggie, Trina, and our Jackie for sharing their kitchens. You guys rock. Yeah, it was really fun. I can't wait to do it again. Um, I'll have Jackie back on, but if any of you want to volunteer to come on too, that's fine. I don't mind. Just saying. Mark, your last video was a revelation. It absolutely changed my life. Thank you. What are your future ideas for videos? Wow, man, thanks so much. That's crazy. My future ideas. Well, the next idea is, can your kitchen help you live a healthier lifestyle? That's gonna be an interesting one. You'll have to wait and see about that. Honestly, I wish I could tell you that I had a bunch of ideas for the future, but they come as I need them to. I'm very by the seat of my pants, and I don't have anything weeks out, except for, hopefully, well, in the end of this month, I'm going to be going to Toronto and filming a video about fire safety in the kitchen with a company there. So that's going to be kind of fun, and interesting. And my friend Nico from Infinity Surfaces, I'm hoping to meet him in Toronto as well and do some content around quartz, or not quartz. Sorry, Nico, porcelain. Um, or maybe we'll talk about quartz too, but he's the porcelain guy. Debbie, hi Mark. What's the best process to completely redo a kitchen? My boyfriend needs a complete tear out, and we're not sure how to go about this. You're in the GTHA. Cool. Well, I'll be in the GTHA, like I said, at the end of the month. Um, Argentina Road or something like that. Holiday Inn. The best process is, number one, to get your measurements, bring them to a designer, whether it's at like a Home Depot or some cabinet shop or online like myself, bring it somewhere and have them go through some ideas to design that kitchen so that it is more functional for you. And then it's just a matter of, does the budget fit? Get a price for it, get two or three prices from different places, and determine whether you're going to do the tear out yourself and some of the work yourself, or are you going to, find a contractor that's going to do everything for you. Depending on where you go, they'll install the kitchen for you, and you have to take care of the tear out and the prep of the space. Or if you hire a contractor, which can or cannot be tricky depending on where and who you're getting, they can do all that for you as well. You're probably going to pay more money for that. So if you're trying to save a little bit of money, you can do the tear out yourself and then just hire the people to come in and do the prep work for you. And usually the kitchen place will also price the kitchen installation, which I do recommend. That way it's on them. Their warranty, it will probably be more beneficial and useful for you if that's the case, if they install it. And if something happens, a door is drilled wrong or something comes in damaged, it's on them, instead of being on you. So that would be the process, I guess. I don't know who you would go to in the GTHA. That is the Greater Toronto Hamilton area. For anyone else who's wondering, um, I don't know. I don't know any particular place that's good or not good to go to. But yeah, that would be the do. I hope that helps a little bit. First thing is getting some designs, getting the legwork done first before you get too far down the road. Kira saying, no side panel for me. Call me old fashioned, but the fridge is my message center. The stainless steel front isn't magnetic. So the side is where the messages are. Well, you can put a message board on a panel if you want to. I hear you. I hear you. If you are replacing your kitchen, would you do it before or after your floor? Sorry, before or after you install your cabinets? I would generally do it before, regardless of how I'm doing it. So if I'm installing I guess if I'm installing my flooring right through and then putting my cabinets on top, then obviously it's before. But when there's nothing in the way, it's just easier to maneuver around. You got to get up, you're down on your hands and knees, you're in the space, you're cutting stuff. So I think it's easier if you do it without the cabinets there, and then there's nothing in the way, and then you install your cabinets, make allowances for those dimensions, and when your toe kit goes on, it looks like everything runs through and everything's kind of a little sleek that way. You can do it after the fact, but I just find it more cumbersome. I've done both. I've been involved in both. For my own kitchens, I've always done the floor first and then the cabinets. But with other people, I've helped them install their flooring when their cabinets are in. I just find it more of a nuisance to install. So, and yeah, if you put the flooring underneath, that can be a problem. I've done both of that as well. My kitchen in my home, I have it plywood under the cabinets for the buildup, so everything's level, and then the countertop, or the flooring runs underneath. The toe kit covers it, so it looks like it runs through. So yeah, and plus you'll save a little bit of money probably that way. But doing it before is always a good plan, either whichever way you go. Okay, okay, yeah, and the fridge, it'll fit in the space. Okay, no panels for Carol. We get it. In Australia, Helen, the cost of panel appliances is generally is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that it is definitely more here in North America. I don't know if it's ridiculous for some. Like I think dishwashers are not that crazy. Probably refrigerators are. So how difficult is it to have a wall oven serviced? I don't know. I've never had one serviced. Pull it out, service it, push it back in. Can't be that difficult. The reason why we are loyal is because your content is relatable and educate and not dictate. Yes, thank you. Well, it comes down to what you want, what you need, and at the end of the day, it's your kitchen. You got to use it. So, thank you, Vonda. Mark, if you're gonna be in Toronto, you're welcome to drop in for dinner. Sweet. Well, I'm likely going to be lost driving around Toronto. A boy from Nova Scotia, probably going to be in a lot of trouble in the big city. But thank you for that offer. I would. Amy and I are doing Toronto and then heading to Orlando. So we're going to be in Toronto for a few days. Looking forward to it. Or it doesn't judge. Well, I judge internally, but not to your face. Oh my goodness. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Hey Sanjeev. I don't know if you caught that, but in my little interview, I mentioned you. So cool, cool. Is hanging the cabinet 57 inches from the floor better than 54? Not in my opinion. Is that something you've been asked or you do? That seems a little high for me. And then what about if you have a pantry or something, or a tall cabinet next to it? 54 inches is usually the number for me. I just find it's a little bit too high, but not that higher is bad necessarily, but yeah, that's a good question. But I would say no. Unless there's some new way of hanging cabinets that I don't know about, then maybe it is better. But 54 inches from the floor gives you about 18 inches from your countertop surface, which is pretty standard. And then with a 30-inch wall cabinet, most pantries, if you're going with a 30-inch wall cabinet, is 84 inches. So do the math, you'll realize that they line up on the top. And if you're going with a 90-inch pantry, which is pretty standard size, you'll realize that a 36-inch cabinet, 54 inches from the floor, lines up at the top of the 90. And so At 57, I don't know what the wall cabinet would be unless it's just customized. But then it's higher up off of the countertop, which could be beneficial depending on what's going to be there. There's some tall appliance or something. But yeah, I would say 54 is the way to go. And DMS, how I stayed on budget was because I purchased a lot of my materials myself and did not use their uh, supply house and alter the cost. We save thousands. Well, yeah, you can save a lot of money if you do the work yourself, which is good. If you can, it's really good to be able to do. Some people can't, of course, but if you can, go for it. What did Matthew say here about his kitchen? Did I miss that? Maybe. Oh, here you are. I suppose you could say I've finally officially started the renovation. Awesome. Although it's more upgrades to support the renovation. The upgrade. Oh, just upgrade my life. Sweet. Oh, that's a big job upgrading your service to 200. Sweet. Well, that's exciting because that means something's happening. The ball is rolling, and that's what is really exciting in when you're doing any kind of work to your home. It's just getting the ball rolling. I remember when we built this house, they dug the hole for the foundation, we put the addition on. It's like, yeah, like things are starting to happen, and then it's just biting your nails for 6 months after that. What material would you recommend for box and fronts for cabinets? MDF, particle board, or plywood? Box, I'd recommend plywood generally. Doors, and cabin and drawer fronts, I am not opposed to any material, not particle board. Generally, a door front would not be made out of that or plywood. Usually, they're made out of either solid wood or an MDF or a mixture. So sometimes you'll have a solid wood, like say maple style and rail with an MDF center. That's fine. Paint's really nice. MDF paint's really great. So does maple though. Or if you want a one-piece door without any grooves or spots for dirt to get in, then a full MDF door that's painted can be good, or maybe a thermo plastic door, which people don't really like because it can delaminate. I've seen it happen, but you know to each his own. But yeah, I'm not against MDF or wood, solid wood, whatever the wood type is for a door, and then boxes. Usually plywood's probably better, arguably better, though I've been known to say that cabinet grade particle board is pretty strong, and maybe it off gases or something more than you'd like it to, but I'll just say that stick with plywood, you'll be safe. But if you have to go with a particle board, I don't think it's the end of the world either. Becky, I will have to do the flooring before installing cabinets. That's cool. That's no problem. 1946 kitchen floor has sunk over the years. Oh yeah, I have to level it. Well, that is a great thing to do. Level that flooring, because that'll be make the kitchen installation go a lot better. So awesome. Well, all the best with your renovation, because like we all know, if a lot of us have done renovations maybe recently, or you're thinking about doing them, you've done them in the past at some point, you know that it's a pretty exciting process, and a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of steps to get to the main step, which is getting the whole thing done. So awesome. Great. Well, you guys are awesome, of course, as always. I think next week, I believe Jackie will be back. Now, next week, of course, there's also this Kitchen Design Expo, and I will be the first speaker on that. So there's a link in the description below. So that's going to be at, well, for me, 3 p.m., but Central Time, 1 p.m., 11 Pacific. So for any of you out there, those are kind of the time frames. And then I'll be on live again here Wednesday night for my own live stream, chatting again. And I'm thinking what I will do is roast some more kitchens. So we already have 3, I believe, people have emailed me their kitchens. If any of you out there would like to send me pictures of your kitchen, definitely go ahead and do that. I'll put my email on the screen. And if you watched last week's live, you'll know that we are pretty gentle, and I'm not really going to roast your decisions or make fun of you or anything like that. It's really serves as a cool tool, one, just to kind of show off your kitchen if you want to, and for other people to see some things that are interesting and what other people have done, other viewers have done for their kitchens. And also, sometimes it's kind of instructive because I can talk through some things that maybe you could think about differently, not so much as a roast, but just in terms of educationally saying, hey, this is something you could have done, or you could think of if you're doing something similar, all those types of things. Anyone who was on last week, if you didn't watch it, will realize if you do go back, we were really kind. And of course, Jackie's there to keep me in track, on track, in line, so that I don't, go offending anybody, because I don't want to do that. Of course, most of you, if you've watched me for any length of time, you kind of know my style, my heart. Obviously, is not to offend anyone, because you know this is not my thing. Um, Unless you have an OTR or a corner cabinet with a lazy Susan, then nothing's off limits. Nick says, "Yeah, I survived the roasting." Yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's fun, and it just and it gives the people an opportunity to say, "Well, this is why I did this. This is why I did that. These are why I made the decisions," which is good, because it's context, right? That's important. So, Trina, hey, what's up? Do frameless cabinets need a trim piece at the bottom to keep under cabinet lights from shining in your eyes? Generally, yes. I don't have any issues with my face trim cabinets. Yeah, usually if you have a frameless cabinet, you'll put a light valance molding, a light rail. 1 inch is usually enough. Back in the day, they'd make them like 3 inches. So then you'd have this counter space issue where all of a sudden, Sanjeev saying if you put it at 57, well, now that might even make more sense if you have this great big light valance molding. So I usually go with about an inch. And now today, lights are so low profile that you don't need much. But yeah, definitely having some kind of trim is usually good to have. And yeah, if you have a framed cabinet, there's already that built into it, so don't necessarily need it. Vonda survived the roast, yes, of course. um Mark, I'd like to Celebrity Kitchen for what's the process, should we uh email me, just email me, and get in on the action. uh Send me your pictures of your kitchen, and a little bit of explanation maybe to some things that I'm going to pick up on that you already know about, and be like, "Oh, Mark's going to roast me for this." You can talk about those things if you want, and we can get some context for it. So I'm going to let you all go. Thanks so much for joining the live again. I appreciate y'all. Love y'all, of course, and have a great week. We'll be here next Wednesday, and don't forget to sign up for the free workshop. There's a link in the description, and you'll also be sent a copy of it after it's finished if you can't make it. So love for you to join, and I will see you then, and see you next week on the live, and maybe in my travels if you're in the greater Toronto area, or in Orlando at the 1st of June. All right. We'll go sit by the pool together and talk kitchens or something. See you, everybody. God bless.